The past
Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Yes, I broke down and looked up at the sky, and yes, my eyes are still hurting, and I can barely see, but I'm fine. And I'm glad I don't have to deal with this again for another 20 years. Good morning. It's O'Connor and Company. It's Tuesday, the 9th day of April, and the apocalypse is behind us, and I feel fine. Coming up later in the program at 7:05, John Myers running for Congress in Virginia, 7th District. 7:35, oh, hey, it's the governor, Governor Glenn Youngkin, joining us. Glenn Youngkin, governor of Virginia.
Very cool.
Governor of the Commonwealth, Glenn Youngkin. 8:05, James Swanson, author of the book Manhunt that has now been turned into a pretty cool Apple TV series. It's about the assassination of President Lincoln and then the efforts to track John Wilkes Booth down.
Yeah.
Part of history that a lot of people don't focus too much on. And it happened. It's right here in our backyard.
Yes.
All of it happened. That's going to be a fun conversation. Then 8:35, Mark Morgan, former assistant FBI director and acting commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, because we still have a nightmare at the border. So that's it. I'm Larry O'Connor, and Julie Gunlock's here today. Did you? And your eyes seem fine this morning. Well, that's not true. Actually, Julie is having trouble with her eyes. We don't have cameras here, but she's basically winking at me the entire time, and I'm going to call.
I have a little makeup that fell.
I'm
going to
call HR.
So yeah,
she's flirting with me again.
This is not related to.
Not related to the eclipse.
No, just a little mascara.
It did get dark.
It did.
That was kind of cool. But
Yeah.
but if you would have told me, if you just said, look outside, look how dark it is, and if you told me that there was cloud cover.
You would have thought a storm was rolling in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that was fun.
Twilight-ish.
It was funky. And casting really long shadows and stuff at 3 in the afternoon.
I will tell you, just to update everyone, my dog went outside with me.
Yeah.
Because my dog is never 1 inch away from me. And
I let dogs like that.
I stepped outside. She followed. I thought, oh, there's going to be a freak out. Nope, she was fine. She didn't care.
Well, she kind of hid under the tree. I saw
No,
you sent
she
You
did.
sent a
She
picture.
didn't
She looked like she was
hide.
towering.
No, she always sits under that
And she had
tree.
that look in her eyes. She's sort of
No,
like,
she was,
like she's
it was
about
her
to get.
rolling her eyes.
Oh,
at
she
my
was
concern. Yeah. She's like, I'm fine, Mom.
All right. Well, we made it through. We'll talk to you about Sunny Hostin. I'm worried about her on The View.
Oh, dear.
She thinks that the solar eclipse is somehow linked to you driving an SUV. We'll
Right.
raise that issue a little bit later. But we do want to revisit. Listen, this broke during the show yesterday around 8:30, 8:15. President Trump made an announcement about his official position and his campaign position, and presumably what the position of his second term would be with regard to a federal stance on abortion in a post-Roe v. Wade world. It should be reminded that the only reason we're having this conversation about a post-Roe v. Wade world is because President Trump is. Oh Lord, Larry, good. What's happening?
I think that you're.
It's you. It's you winking at me. It's throwing me off.
I think that the sunbeams went straight to your head,
Maybe.
to your brain.
Let's try this, or what's left of it. Let's try this
I've
again.
stopped winking at you.
You know what? I always like that I have moments like this where I can prove to the audience that we work without a script here. Because like, oh my God, you guys are such a great show. And I was like, how long does it take you to write it? I'm like, seriously?
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Do you get that sometimes?
I get that too.
Yeah, well, the secret revealed. Clearly not written. All right, let's try this again. The only reason we're having a conversation about a post-Roe v. Wade world is because President Trump kept his promise.
Mm-hmm.
His promise when all the pro-life people were nervous and worried about him, understandably in 2016, because
Sure.
he had a pretty vocal pro-abortion position in his youth, as many people do when they're not wise. And he had donated to many pro-abortion Democrats when he was a businessman in New York. And it's like, this guy's not going to do anything for. And he even didn't he mention that he might like nominate his sister to the Supreme Court in an offhand remark?
And she's a radical pro-abortion activist.
I think she passed. Yeah,
Oh, she did.
But yeah. Anyway, President Trump came out with his list of judges. I'm going to pick from this list one of the most brilliant political maneuvers. I'm guessing that was Kellyanne Conway who suggested that. It put conservatives at ease. He did follow through. 3 solid justices for the most part, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Coney Barrett. And the next thing you know, Roe v. Wade finally, after 50 years, and many presidents who promised otherwise, and then ended up nominating justices like David Souter.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's important to also remember that a lot of people on the left recognize that Roe was a terrible
Oh,
ruling.
yeah. Yeah, and President Trump mentioned that.
Ruth
It's like,
Bader Ginsburg.
said this is bad law.
law.
This is bad
Yeah.
constitutional law, bad jurisprudence. So that said, President Trump's announcement came out yesterday. We played it. We didn't have a lot of time to do some analysis because it was the end of the program. Let's get into a bit of it here.
Thank the 6 justices, Chief Justice John Roberts, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, and Neil Gorsuch, incredible people, for having the courage to allow this long-term, hard-fought battle to finally end. This 50-year battle over Roe v. Wade took it out of the federal hands and brought it into the hearts, minds, and vote of the people in each state. It was really something. Now it's up to the states to do the right thing. Like Ronald Reagan, I am strongly in favor of exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. You must follow your heart on this issue, but remember, you must also win elections to restore our culture and, in fact, to save our country, which is currently, and very sadly, a nation in decline. Our nation needs help. It needs unity. It needs us all to work closely together.
All right. So to sum up, he said, listen, we waited forever to get rid of Roe v. Wade. We got rid of it. And by eliminating Roe v. Wade, it means the states can decide. And that's exactly what's happening right now. There's no need for federal intervention from a conservative's point of view right now. For those of you who are absolutists and want absolute abolition of abortion, I'm paraphrasing here because I think I'm saying what I wish he had said. But for those of you who want the abolition of abortion, I get it. I hear you. But you're not going to win with that position right now. That's the political reality we're facing. And you can't do anything if you don't win.
That's right.
And so what we need to do is have a position that is legitimate in a post-Roe world and keeps us in a position where we can continue to do more and continue to use our bully pulpit to persuade people to the anti-abortion position. I also wish he had spent more time focusing on what the Democrats are in favor of.
Yeah.
But
which is it's totally radical, but
with no restrictions in any way whatsoever at any point.
It is really,
pregnancy.
I find the argument that in turning over Roe v. Wade, we return this to the states. That's compelling, but it's more than that. We return to a debate, period. When Roe v. Wade happened, they took it away from the people. There could be no robust grappling with this tough life and death issue because the states couldn't decide. It was a constitutionally protected right to have an abortion, and in doing so, no one really debated it anymore. So people couldn't have an opinion. I mean, it didn't matter if they had an opinion. So this returns this to the states where legislatures can robustly debate this very important issue. So, I just feel like the sort of forgotten in that is that actually debate. No, this is when the arguments start.
That's right. Now we have to be in a position to make the arguments and persuade people. And in some states we are. I want to get to the politics of it and how anti-abortion and pro-abortion candidates have done, because both Biden is lying about it. He put out a tweet that was a complete and total lie about it. What this means politically. And also, listen, I always liked it's like, oh, well, what should my position be on this? Well, let's take a look at people I hate and see what their position is. And boy, they came through.
Oh, yeah.
People that annoy us up the wazoo, they were absolutely ridiculous reacting to this. And so I think that we're in a pretty good spot by saying, this is probably the best. It's also reasonable. Also, by the way, libertarians, independents, I think they can accept this and they like this. And I also wonder, there's a lot of people who are like us, who are anti-abortion, who don't want abortion, are like, well, if it's that important, this is about the life of babies, it shouldn't be left up to the states. We should have a federal. I want to talk about that. Let's address that for a second, too. We'll get into all that in a moment. But
many people have asked me what my position is on abortion and abortion rights, especially since I was proudly the person responsible for the ending of something that all legal scholars, both sides, wanted and, in fact, demanded be ended. Roe v. Wade. They wanted it ended.
Of course, the president went on to say, let's let the states decide this. They're working it out right now. And by the way, in the great history of the United States of America, most major issues in this country went through this entire process. The states were working it out, and they eventually come up. The two major issues that weren't decided that way was abortion, where the Supreme Court just came in and just decided willy-nilly that this was somehow a newfound constitutional right, and then slavery. Slavery wasn't getting worked out in a way that was really sort of our constitutional process. We ended up having a conflict over it, but then eventually we didn't have the Supreme Court step in with 5 people in a robe saying, nope, no more slavery. No, we had a constitutional amendment. That's how we go through these things, and we took care of it. By the way, I found a politician from back in 2006 who completely agrees with Donald Trump's position today on abortion. Here, listen.
I do not view abortion as a choice and a right. I think it's always a tragedy, and I think that it should be rare and safe. And I think we should be focusing on how to limit the number of abortions, and they ought to be able to have a common ground and consensus as to do that. I think the vast majority of the American people think that can be done, but unfortunately, we're put in a position you either eliminate abortions under all circumstances or it's quote abortion on demand. The fact of the matter is, I've never known of a woman having an abortion and say, by the way, I feel like having an abortion. It's always a tragic decision made.
Actually, that's not true. These days, people are, shouting their abortions, celebrating their abortions.
Yes.
Joe Biden now, of course, is in favor of abortion on demand. And I would ask people who try to take this position of Joe Biden's, which is duplicitous. I always hear this, no one's happy about abortion. It's a tragic decision. Really, why? Tell me why.
Yeah.
What's tragic about it?
Yeah.
If you don't believe that that's a human life, then there's nothing tragic about it. It's like having your tooth pulled.
Yeah.
Or do you think that there is some value?
I also think that he's in favor of he's in favor of abortion on demand, always invokes this idea of before 12 weeks. You find out it's 6 weeks pregnant, you get an abortion. No. Biden believes no limits at all. You go into labor at 40 weeks. You decide mid-labor you want an abortion, fine.
Right.
That is where the Democrats are.
Trust women with the decision, they say. Of course, those are the same women that they don't trust to be in a locker room,
and there's always
in a
this
safe
narrative.
space.
It's between a woman and her doctor. If you don't think a doctor, you can find a doctor who would approve that.
We've seen some pretty ghoulish doctors out there, sadly. CBS News. Listen, this is the news organ of the CBS network. Former President Donald Trump has offered conflicting stances on abortion, boasting about his involvement in overturning Roe v. Wade while recently refraining from endorsing a federal abortion ban and saying that the matter should be determined by individual states. Now, so CBS News has just framed President Trump's position, which is it's good we got rid of Roe v. Wade, and now we should let the states decide. They have framed this as a conflicting stance.
Right.
Where there is nothing more consistent than that.
Right.
I want to talk to the intern who wrote this.
I mean, there's no, look, every day
it's
you
absolute
read
nonsense.
something on their website and you're like, is there an editor? Do they have editor? Are there any grown-ups who work over there?
You can't be against Roe v. Wade and want the states to decide. No, wait, you're repeating yourself. Those two things are exactly the same, actually.
It's honestly, you showed me that, and it's so stupid that I didn't know how to talk about how stupid it was. But thankfully, you're here to do that.
That's the way to do it. Oh, speaking of stupid and outrageous.
The
Again, you're not sure where you should be on this one? No, close to the View. Bill Kristol.
Oh, yes, much better.
Bill Kristol, who was a champion pro-life. He was the chief of staff for Dan Quayle, for crying out loud.
Yep.
And the man who brought Sarah Palin to John McCain's attention. It's always been, he's the real conservative in the room. And now, I mean, he's like,
now he
marching with his pink hat on the mall.
Yeah.
Yes, he contributes to every pro-abortion politician there is.
His wife,
Here's Bill Kristol's position. Trump's I can't even do it with a straight face. Trump's waffling on abortion could help him politically in the short term, but it could hurt him if people understand this is classic authoritarianism. It's classic not wanting a federal ban.
Wait, returning it to the voters.
And wanting the voters in each individual state to self-determine.
Wanting there to be rigorous conversation among the electorate and then a vote on it is classic authoritarianism.
Yes. But those of us who are outside of the angels and the people and a democratic process, we want 5 judges to decide for everyone and there to be no more debate.
And, it's so funny. It's so funny when the left goes, it's a bunch of white men deciding the future of abortion, right? And so we return it to the states so that other people besides white men can decide, and it's classic authoritarianism.
And then people that I respect are on the other side of and by the way, Lila Rose and other very, I want to say devout is sadly a word that's associated with religion. Relentless advocates on behalf of the unborn. They said, listen, this is we can do better than this, and I get it, but I just don't think politically that's always. You need people to continue to be calling and pulling you to that side, even if they don't have their way. Oh, go ahead.
Well, you know how the free speech advocates are always like the answer to unpalatable speech or racist speech or hateful speech is more speech. Right. Yeah. Ultimately, more speech in a way this decision, returning it to the states, demanding people debate this issue, talk about this issue, is that path. Now, I know some people don't always agree with that. This is difficult. And I really liked your analysis yesterday, Larry, when you were saying, I agree with this. I agree with what Trump has to say. I just wish there had been a little bit more appreciation for this being a life.
Right.
And I do think to some degree we wouldn't see as many complaints about this from the pro-life movement if Trump had seen.
I think you're right. I think if he had said, let's first just recognize
this is a
human life. It's scientific.
Being.
So we're not debating when life begins. We're debating how much value and protection we're going to give that life. And let's just set the terms of the conversation because that is the fact here. And also we're living in a legitimately real political world, not just a utopia. And in the same way the left can be utopianists about their Marxism and other things, conservatives can as well. Yeah. But ultimately, here's the thing. I would love for there not to be any law against abortion here. I would love to live in a culture where no one would even dream of doing such a thing, because we all understand the evil involved in this practice. We don't live in that world. But the way we get to that world is to convince people, one person at a time, through conversation and logic and reason and passion and compassion, that we can do better as a society and we shouldn't be doing this. Having a federal ban that just forces everyone, that's not going to stop abortion, sadly. Just like having a federal ban on drugs is not going to end drug use. Your kids don't do drugs not because it's against the law. They don't do drugs because you've raised them properly to not do drugs. And we need to do the same thing on this issue. Real fast, one more thing. Russ Vought, great. I love him. He's fantastic.
That's great.
Director of OMB under Trump and solid pro-life Christian. He says, defending life is the most important issue to me. Whenever there was a federal decision to be made, I personally saw President Trump decide for life. Every time. President Trump is navigating choppy waters carefully in a post-Roe sea of possibilities to save life very few have ever thought possible, and that exists largely because he kept his word. That's what statesmen do. Below is a speech that I delivered in 2020 that still holds up about his pro-life record. Trust the man who delivered the end of Roe when all the other pro-life politicians could not. So he said, listen, I'm pro-life. I stand behind no one on pro-life positions. I get why people are concerned about this. You should trust this man because he hasn't let us down yet. So, that's where we are. There you go. It's 5:27 now. It's 5:36 on this Tuesday morning. Thanks for tuning in. We are in your nation's capital. We are O'Connor and Company. We are America's morning show. Coming up at 7:05, John Myers running for the 7th District in Virginia. 7:35, the governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin. 8:05, James Swanson, author of Manhunt, which is now a series on Apple TV. It's about the Lincoln assassination. And then at 8:35, Mark Morgan, former Customs and Border Protection Commissioner. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
Good morning, Julie. I'm glad your eyes are feeling better after staring straight in the sun.
Now I have mascara on one eye. Great.
Did I mention that we had some pretty stupid reactions to President Trump's decision on
mention it.
Not pushing for a federal ban on abortions and allowing the states to sort of – well, it shows you CBS News' stupid position.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like, on one hand, he says –
shockingly stupid even for CBS.
Even for CBS or any news agency in this town. On one hand, Trump tells you that he's against Roe v. Wade, but on the other hand, he wants the states to decide.
The nerve.
That's so inconsistent. And Bill Kristol says that allowing the people in each individual state to sort of chart their own way and determine their own destiny and then vote on it through the representatives, that is in some way authoritarianism.
Right.
That's what's really a problem is the Trump authoritarianism. All right. But now if we really want to get to stupid, we got to turn to the ladies on The View.
Right.
Because I don't know your life. And if you say this is what you need, that's what I'm going to do. 50 weeks, 75,000 weeks, whatever, how many weeks, it's nobody's business. It's you, your doctor, and God. That's who you have to be.
I always love it when they invoke God in these conversations.
Yeah, keep my Lord's name out your mouth. But so it's none of my business. It's all up to you. It's all up to you and God. It's none of my business. So what about a toddler? What about a 2-year-old? What if the 2-year-old who can't even speak is, a burden, is a problem? They can't afford them. Why shouldn't we be able to do away with that toddler? Oh, well, that's different. I need you to tell me why it's different. And now we know what the grounds of this debate are, Whoopi. But when you pound the table and you just start saying these platitudes, and you've got a trained audience to applaud you, it makes you think you're saying something wise and relevant. But I'm saying, honestly, the most unacceptable, harebrained, stupid, immoral, and frankly, illogical position that you can have on this issue is, I'm not going to say whether it's life or not, and it's not up to me to decide. I have my own opinion on when life begins. You have your own opinion about when life begins, and let's just leave it up to each individual person to decide. Because that's not how we do anything else in this country.
No, this is the effect of Oprah on the culture. You need to live your truth.
Right.
Your truth is what matters.
Yeah.
Which is an incredibly corrosive concept, because then there is no truth.
Yeah.
There's no empirical truth. It's just whatever. Your lived experience is another thing.
And especially when it's the pro-science crowd that mocks, all of us for being such, ignorant Neanderthals. Just really fast, in case you haven't, I know that you are up to speed on this, but when you create a human life, you've got a sperm, you've got an egg. Each of those two entities there, if left to their own devices, will die off. They won't grow. They don't grow and thrive, okay, because they're not life. Okay, not human life, at least. They also have their own distinct DNA, separate, distinct DNA related to the human being that created that sperm and that egg. When they get together and the sperm fertilizes the egg, suddenly everything changes. And now the two DNAs that those two things had, it disappears. Mm-hmm. And you've got a brand new, unique, distinct DNA. And that entity will now grow and continue to grow. And unencumbered, what it grows into is a baby, a human being. So there's no debate here. It is human life. At the point of conception, it is human life. Now, the only discussion we're having here is, at what stage of that human life does it have the value and protection that we should all provide it? That's it. Mm-hmm. And they can't even bring themselves to say that.
No.
They can't even bring themselves to say it when the baby is like entering the birth canal.
Well, I've never forgotten there was a commercial at one point, and they showed a scan of a baby, and it was very, it was just like you go in, you get a scan today.
Yeah, the ultrasound.
Yeah, and it was pulled, and it turns out that feminists were complaining about this, right? It was all just too real, and there's other examples of this,
right. Don't show us the reality.
Don't show us the reality. And one of the worst things that happened to the pro-abortion movement was technology.
Yeah.
Letting us see that this is not just a blob of cells, that this is really a miracle of life, and it starts early.
In France, I believe it's France, you cannot have an abortion unless you have an ultrasound first. And here, they go nuts. If we try to propose that as a law, it's like, we're not going to try to outlaw abortion. Let's just make sure that there's an ultrasound first so that the mother can see exactly what's happening there. And the pro-abortion people are against it. The fact they're against that shows they're against the facts. They're against truth. They're against science. They're against honesty.
What is it they're against? Oh, yeah, science.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Anyway, there's even more of Whoopi. I'm just sort of, that part triggered me.
Conversational tip. And it's not mentioned in the Big Ten. I'm just going to say. No. In the Big Ten, it is not mentioned.
The commandments?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because I figured God was pretty clear. Here's the stuff that'll make your life better on earth. Here's the thing. Don't lie, because you don't want people lying to you. Don't mess with somebody's wife, because you're going to be mad if they're messing with yours. Just, common sense stuff.
Say, thou shalt not kill.
They believe that. Yes, well, here's the thing. I think thou shalt not kill cannot be used as the block, because we allow wars all the time.
Yes, we do.
The Crusades
we allow the death
were about all these things.
We allow guns.
Yes. So there is some conversation to be had here. So you can either thou shalt not kill for everybody.
Yes.
And everything. Or we have to talk about all the things that you and I need to do. And I have to, I need to give you.
Well, there's your moral compass for you, everybody. I told you it was going to be stupid.
Yeah, I'm actually dumber.
What you just heard is actually a product of the news division of ABC Network. Mm-hmm. That's an ABC News show you just listened to. It's 5:43.
It must be remembered that the Democrats are the radical ones on this position because they support abortion up to and even beyond the 9th month. The states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land.
Now, that is an undeniable fact, and we can catalog it across the board. In New York, I remember when Andrew Cuomo was still the governor there before the pandemic, and he killed people in nursing homes, allegedly. He signed a law just like that, and they painted they lit the Capitol building awash in pink.
Oh, right.
And all of that stuff. Of course, that's their position. And again, in keeping on brand, Whoopi Goldberg is completely ignorant of the news. They don't actually follow the news over there at this ABC News show.
Under my leadership, the Republican Party will always support the.
Sorry, here it is.
Can I just point out that normally after the 9th month, the baby is born.
I'm sorry, the what? The what is born, Whoopi? You mean fetus is delivered, right?
Mm-hmm. You do also know that it is against the law, passed quite a bit in, much more than you're aware, but nobody's doing that. I'm not
quite past quite a bit in. What?
I don't know. And clearly she, again.
And also, that's not true.
It's not true. And they don't follow the law.
In this particular example.
Excuse me. They don't follow the news. So let's not forget, this is Governor Ralph Northam. He was just an old country doctor talking to a local radio station.
In this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother.
A discussion about
what?
Let the baby die
like
on
what,
the table?
What name we're going to give the baby, or who's going to sign the birth certificate? Do you
where the
require
baptism's going to occur?
No. A very different discussion. But Whoopi Goldberg is completely either unaware or she's lying. But either way,
Kathy Tran stood in front of the General Assembly explaining how at 40 weeks and in labor the woman could have an abortion. Just not watching the news.
Whoopi Goldberg and the ladies at The View do not know a lot about the news. That would be the news. That's the news. That's Ralph Northam.
We want the government not to be involved in these types of decisions. We want the decision to be made by the mothers. And
that is what they want, all right. When he says we, he means Democrats. That's their position, and Donald Trump properly articulated it. And Whoopi, well, she's just not very smart, or she's a liar. Either way, that's your brand there, ABC News. Enjoy it. It's 5:53.